Okay, so George Orwell was born in 1903, and his lifespan extends from 1903 to 1950. George Orwell is the pseudonym or the pen name of this writer. His real name is Eric Arthur Blair. There are some details related to his personal and biographical uh, life which are important for us to take note of and to understand. The first thing is that George Orwell was born in India in present day Bihar in a place called Moti Hari. His birth in India is related with his father's position in the Indian civil services. His father, Richard Blair, was a member of the opium department of the Indian civil services. So he was a member of the imperial government and he lived in India. Eric Arthur Blair, or George Orwell's mother, grew up in Burma in a place called Malveen. Uh, even though George Orwell was born in India, he was soon, as a child, he was taken back to England. He received major part of his schooling in some famous schools in England. There is a resumption of his ties with India when he joined the imperial police and received a posting in Burma, and in the year 1922 he joined service as assistant superintendent of police, and he came back to India to work for the imperial government. This tenure of his service in the police department under the British government in Burma extends approximately to 5 or 5.5 years. This constitutes a very important period of his life because of 2 or 3 reasons. One is that through this opportunity to work for the imperial government, he got exposure to the subcontinent and the culture of the subcontinent because there were apparent conspicuous cultural differences between England and India. So this tenure in the police service gave him an exposure to the native culture of Burma, or we can say to the native culture of the subcontinent. So it widened his perspective about human life. Secondly, through his tenure in the imperial government, he was exposed to the imperial system, or we can say imperialism, under which the British had established their political domination over various parts of the world. So he got a first-hand experience of the injustice of some unfair practices which were integral to the British rule in India. This could not have been possible had he lived in England. So in service in the imperial government, this opportunity gave him a lot of information about how the imperial government functioned, how, what was the nature, what was the constitution, what was the character of imperial rule, the rule of the British over other regions in the world. Most importantly, because he subscribed to the ideas of individual liberty and individual freedom. He valorized these ideas all his life as a writer, as a political thinker, and as a person who was socially conscious and aware of the realities around him. So this was an opportunity when he learned a lot about how, and from very close quarters, he could see the many contradictions, many inconsistencies, many problems which were common to the system of uh, imperial rule, to the system of foreign rule, in which this was a historical period. This was a period in history when colonialism and imperialism had spread to so many parts of the world. So we can say that this constitutes a very important period in his life, and this had a bearing on his writing for the rest of his life. So this is the first thing related to his personal life and the early years of Eric Arthur Blair, or George Orwell. I have already stated that this period came to an end in 1928 when, on his visit to England, he decided against returning to India and stayed back in England because of his interest, inherent interest in writing. He was an observer of life. He was an individual who had great degree of social awareness. He was keenly conscious of the political and social realities around him. So all these things led him to a new course in his life. All these things, in a way, inspired him to become a writer. So we can say that although there were uh, there were so many uh, there were many no things which uh, may have led him to become a writer in the early part of his life also, but the official date when he turned to writing is 1928. Another thing which all of you must take note of is that uh, two works, one is Burmese Days 1934 and Shooting an Elephant 1936, are closely related with the experiences of George Orwell in Burma. So the experiences of the writer in the Burmese culture get a manifestation and an expression in two of his very important and early works. One is Burmese Days, 1934, Shooting an Elephant, which is a rather comic take on an episode, on an anecdote. It is a story of an anecdotal nature, in which, as assistant superintendent of police, he was required to shoot an elephant. So in this story, he records his observations about this episode. It is a very interesting story. After 1928, he began a new chapter of his life in England and also in France. Many years during this phase of his life were spent in teaching in uh, various different schools in England. So we can say that the second part of his life was spent in as a teacher, taking up teaching assignments in various schools of England. Before I come to his academic and his literary career, his academic and literary, his orientation, I just will make a passing reference to a very important episode towards the end of his life. 1936 is the year when he went to Spain to take part in the Spanish Civil War. Spanish Civil War was an important episode which was a precursor to many important political developments in Europe. Spanish Civil War was a war between the Republican forces in Spain and the military dictator and General Franco. So this war continued for 3 years till 1939. The outcome of the war installed General Franco as the military dictator in a fascist government in Spain. And Franco ruled Spain till 1975. Orwell's participation in this war is a testimony to his anti-fascist credentials. Now, I will be using this term fascist and fascism a couple of times in the remaining part of my lecture also. So let me briefly introduce this term to you. Fascism is a system of government in one ethnic, cultural, or racial group asserts its superiority over the other groups and establishes its political domination based on the idea of ethnic, cultural, or racial superiority. Historically, many fascist governments have come into existence in places such as Italy, Spain, and most importantly, Germany. And history tells us that fascism is, in its basic nature, an unjust, unfair system of political dispensation, which violates the rights, the basic basic rights related to life, basic rights related to the civil life, basic rights related to the political life. It violates these rights of those people who do not belong to the ruling class, ruling race, or the ruling ethnic group. So, as I have said, that most important thing which strikes us right from the early days of George Orwell is that he subscribed to the ideas of individual freedom, number one, to democratic ideals, number two, number three, he had a great faith in in democratic ideas as well as in socialism, in socialist forms of political organization where everyone was guaranteed equal rights. So primarily, what I mean to say by this is that primarily we have, this is a very important point, and I would like particularly those of you who have started reading, because as Smile said, she very rightly said that the essay is about the corruption and debasement in English language. But if we look at the larger implications of this essay, there are some more, we are led to some more important conclusions. So I was saying that he subscribed to the ideas of individual freedom, to the ideas of political freedom, democratic and socialist ideals. And this had a very important impact. This had a very important bearing on his writings. These ideas form the backdrop of most of his writings. So what I want to indicate through this is that first and foremost, rather than treating George Orwell as a writer of subjective experience who deals with the insecurities, the basic problems of human existence. He is a political thinker. So this is the first thing you need to carefully note about George Orwell, that basically we have to deal with Orwell by understanding that rather than being a subjective writer of personal human experiences like somebody like Wordsworth or many other writers you have read, he is an objective political thinker. So his writing is characterized by a lot of objectivity, by a lot of clearly defined political convictions. So he's a writer of political convictions. Uh, so he is, as I said, a political thinker. He is a person who is aware of the social realities around him. And if we try to define his theoretical position, it is most appropriate to call George Orwell a democratic socialist. He's a democratic socialist. Or an alternative term through which we can define his theoretical position. When now, after dealing with his personal life, I am dealing, or I am trying to dwell on his literary, academic, and his political orientation. So as far as his literary, academic, and political orientation is concerned, we have to begin by saying that his credentials are those of a democratic socialist because he adhered to the ideas of democracy and socialism. Secondly, he is a liberal humanist who has unflinching faith in the importance of individual freedom. His field of literary activity is approximates to social criticism. As I have tried to say, or as I have tried to hint through the episode related with the Spanish Civil War, we can say that as a democratic socialist, he always poses stiff opposition to all forms of oppression and all forms of injustice. He has a problem with those societies which are unfair, which are politically unjust, and where various forms of iniquities are prevalent. So, the first important thing which we will see in politics and the English language, there is another essay which I must mention here and which is very close in its subject to politics and the English language. The essay is Prevention of Literature. Now, in both these essays, explicitly at an overt level, the writer seems to be talking about the new intellectual culture. Now, rather than saying that his concern is the debasement and corruption of language, I would say that his concern is the change in the intellectual culture, the changes in the culture of thought, which are, and thirdly, which is related to this, the changes in the role of the intellectual. These three things find a reflection in the use of language. So both in prevention of literature as well as in politics and the English language, he critically engages himself with the new intellectual culture. Thereafter, what I was trying to emphasize here, and this is something very important as far as Orwell is concerned. Orwell has a very serious critical engagement with the larger social implications of two phenomena which were connected with modernity. One is industrialism, second is capitalism. So he is concerned with the social, cultural, political implications of these two very important phenomena which had spread extensively throughout the world. And what is the most common outcome of industrialism and capitalism? We do not have to think much before saying that the most common outcome of industrial and capitalism is urban poverty. So he, in two of his works, I will mention two works of his where this subject is dealt with. One is Down and Out in Paris, and second is Road to Vegan Pier. These two these two essays are based on or are inspired by his personal observation of life in the northern industrialized England, in places like Manchester, in places like Liverpool, where there was rampant poverty amongst the working classes. So he gave an extensive representation to poverty in the urban areas, in the slums, in the poorer sections of England, as well as in France. So Down and Out in Paris and Road to Wagon Pier. So I began this part of my discussion by saying that there is a very serious engagement with the phenomena, with the implications of industrialism and capitalism in Europe. He had already gained a lot of experience of imperialism, but his literary career, his academic career gets crystallized in terms of his essential orientation in his critique of two other phenomena. One is fascism, which was a phenomena of the far right, where one, as I said, ethnic and racial superiority became the basis of political rule, political political domination of the rest of the population, rest of the people. So he in his rest of his literary and academic career, he is very serious, he is very incisive, and he uses his aesthetics to critique fascism, which is a far right phenomena, and totalitarianism, which we can say during that phase was a far left phenomena. So he is critical of both the oppressive regimes established by the right wing, the people belonging to the far right, and the totalitarian regimes established during. So he was living in a highly eventful period of history when the one war had already taken place, second war was about to take place. So he was living in times when aggressive nationalism, virulent forms of nationalism had led to in competition amongst the industrialized nations. This competition for overseas territories led to World War I, and similar things, and virulent nationalism, aggressive nationalism led to the Second World War also. Both fascism and totalitarianism were, we can say, an outcome of virulent and aggressive nationalism in Europe, competition among industrialized nations. So his his criticism of both these forms of oppressive politics is gets expressed in two of his most important works. One is Animal Farm. It came out in 1945, which is an allegory on the oppressive political conditions in Russia under Joseph Stalin, who was a dictator belonging to the left. So, how communist governments, which had come as a big hope for the world, also became totalitarian, also manifested themselves in forms of virulent nationalism. This is one. This is gets blended with his aesthetics in Animal Farm, which has important attributes of fable. Major characters are presented as animals. The second work is 1984, which is a dystopian novel. Dystopia technically is a opposite of utopia, a very bad place. It visualizes the future of the world, and it as in its uh, you know in foreseeing the world. Uh, Orwell believes that as we progress, the world will become more and more oppressive, unjust, unfair, and there the problems of the world are going to increase primarily